Welcome to the fifth episode of the NFLTalkZone podcast. I'm your host, Nicolas Gill, joined by my co-host, Graham. And today, we're changing it up. We're kind of breaking the rules. We're called NFLTalkZone, but we're talking college football today because the college football season starts this Saturday. Excited for the season. So we are more of NFL guys, but we both like college football a lot too. Graham, I know you like college football a lot. You love your LSU Tigers. I'm
Go
actually
Tigers,
not a
baby.
fan. I'm not a fan of any college football team. I just have this LSU Tiger Joe Burrow poster behind me just to maybe add something back there. But anyway, yeah, we're excited to talk about the college football season and ready to get into it. Let's talk about actually what we're doing. So we're talking about the playoff teams for the college football season. We're going 1 through 4. The 4 teams we think will get in. We'll also mention a couple teams that we think are just outside. But really, schedule your conference. If you win your conference, can really affect all this stuff, along with actually how good of a team we think you are. So then after that, we're going to give our national champion. We actually have differing opinions on that. And then we got another thing that we got different opinions on, the Heisman race. So we're going to have the Heisman race after that. So this is just strictly college football talk today. But it's probably going to be a shorter episode than usual. But without further ado, let's get into the podcast. So we can start with, we're just going to pop up the playoff teams right up on the screen. Here's our playoff teams. So as you can see, mine is on the left side under my name, Nicolas, and then Graham's is on the right side. We both have Alabama first, so with Alabama, I guess I can start. We both are high on the quarterback, Bryce Young, Heisman winner last year. We think he's going to be good again this year and really make a case for the number 1 overall pick. And they have the best defensive player in the country, Will Anderson, and they're still led by Nick Saban. They do play in the SEC, but it hasn't affected them before. I think they're going to still be very dominant like they've been and really run the table in the SEC. They have new receivers this year, but they always just produce receiver after receiver. So I have Alabama at 1. You also have Alabama at 1. Do you want to talk a little bit about Alabama?
Not really, because it pains me to say that I think Alabama's going to be really good as a diehard LSU fan. So, but no, Alabama is just Nick Saban. What he's done there is crazy, man. Like, he just produces and produces and produces talent. And you have Bryce Young returning back, probably going to be on another Heisman Trophy kind of season this year with the team that he's got around him. Not to mention they have the best player in the country of Will Anderson Jr. on the defensive side. I think he's the best player in the country. And Alabama still has just all the different crazy recruiting classes. And then of course you have Nick Saban. When Nick Saban is your head coach, you will automatically be in the college football playoffs, and I will put that in writing.
So we both have Alabama at 1. That's our number 1 team. Number 2 team, we also have the same team at number 2, Ohio State. Ohio State Buckeyes are a team that a lot of people are high on this year. I'm one of those people. We both have Alabama going undefeated. I have Ohio State going undefeated. Did you have Ohio State going undefeated, Graham?
I do indeed have Ohio State going undefeated.
Yeah, so we both got Ohio State going undefeated. They're led by C.J. Stroud, who I think is going to be in the Heisman talk this year. Then they have the number 1 receiver in the country, in my opinion, in Jackson Smith and Jigba. He was very good for them last year with other good receivers like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. And I think he's going to have that season where he looks like the best receiver in the country this year. So I like Ohio State's offense a lot. The defense, I think, is going to be improved. They added the Oklahoma State defensive coordinator. I forgot his name, but Oklahoma State had a good defense last year. So I really do like Ohio State this year. And I think that they can really challenge Alabama for the number 1 team when it comes time for the college football committee to pick it.
Yeah, Ohio State's they have the firepower this year to compete with Alabama with Jackson Smith Jigba. I can't say his name right to save my life. I actually got to watch this guy play in high school my freshman year when Klein Oak, our school, went up against Rockwall at Waco, and
you saw him play?
Yeah, we saw him play. It was him versus Dwight, if you remember Dwight from our freshman year, who now plays for Arkansas as a cornerback.
He's not on
Uh,
LSU anymore.
no, he transferred. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. I've seen this guy play in real life, and he has that special talent. And I think we saw glimpses of him being the best receiver in college football last year, especially at the Rose Bowl. Rose Bowl when he went absolutely crazy. Um, Him and CJ Stroud have a good connection. I think CJ Stroud is also going to be in the Heisman talks this year. I think we agree on a lot of things more than we think, except for our number 3 and 4 on the list.
Yeah, number 3 and 4, we kind of get a little bit wackier. So Graham, you have the defending national champions at your number 3 spot. With all the defensive talent that Georgia lost to the draft, along with guys like George Pickens, he didn't play that much last year though, and they lost to running backs and Dalvin Cook's better, James Cook, and I think Zamil White was the other one.
Yeah.
But what still makes you think that Georgia's going to be the number 3 team in the country this year? We'll still having to play in a tough SEC.
So I don't necessarily think Georgia is going to be a playoff team. Like, I don't know if they have the talent for it. But if you look at their schedule, their regular season schedule, it is very easy. It's very winnable. I think they're going to go undefeated in the regular season, and when they play Alabama in the championship game, they're gonna lose. And when we waited just a couple seconds when we talk about national championships, I think that this is going to be a little bit of a last year Cinderella story where everyone was like, "Man, Alabama finally is gonna beat them up, and Alabama's back." Last year, like everyone was like, "Okay, Bryce Young's gonna finish it off. Bama is gonna beat Georgia." I don't know. Georgia, everyone on the outside looking in, including myself at the start before I actually looked into their recruitments and see who they have coming off for the defense. They have a bunch of returning players, so sophomores and juniors going to be playing this year on the defense, which I think is great. Kirby Smart is an amazing head coach. I don't know if they have the talent to be a national championship team, but that doesn't mean that they can't win it. I think coaching is a very big thing, and right now Kirby Smart is on a very high road right now, and I think he might continue that.
Okay, so Graham's number 3 team doesn't have the talent to be this good, but somehow you got them at number 3 in the SEC, in the college football as a whole,
yep.
when they play in the SEC.
Yep.
So okay, that was interesting take. Way to explain the take.
Oh, it's gonna get even weirder in about 5 minutes.
But number 3, I got Notre Dame at number 3. They did switch coaches, lost Brian Kelly to LSU, and now they have Marcus Freeman, who I think is going to be a really good coach at Notre Dame. Maybe a little bold to have him take him to the college football playoffs in his first season, but I think this team is led by a strong defense, strong pass rush, and I really like the way that the schedule works out this year. They do have some tough games. I actually have them losing the first game of the season to Ohio State. But I think after that, this team is going to go on a tail. I have them beating some good teams this year, like Clemson, like USC late in the season, whenever I think they're going to be playing the best football, really defensively. USC kind of is a tough one going into USC, but I think Notre Dame has a good defense to do it. And as I said, I'm high on Marcus Freeman as coach. So I like Notre Dame a lot this year. I think they finished 11-1, and I think with them winning the last 11 games after losing in week 1 to Ohio State, that would be enough to get them in at the number 3 spot. So do you have anything to say about my number 3 Notre Dame? We'll just get to them whenever you talk about your ones that just missed. Or did they even just miss for you? Let's talk about that first.
No.
Wow, they didn't just miss for you. So where do you have Notre Dame? Would you have them in your top 10?
I have them at number 8 or 9. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think they're still a really good team. I just think their strength of schedule this year is tough. When you have to play USC, Clemson, and you have to start off the year against – who are they playing again? Oh, my God, why am I going blank?
They're playing Ohio State.
They're playing Ohio State at the start of the year. I'm so sorry. That's a loss against Ohio State. More than likely, they're going to lose to Clemson because other than Clemson's inconsistent quarterback play, their team is still really, really good this year. And then finally, USC with the addition of Caleb Williams and the hiring of Lincoln Riley. I just think USC is going to have those inconsistencies and the bumps in the road. I think they're going to be a 4 or 3-win team, but they may play up to their opponents and maybe they'll surprise.
Wait, you said about what about a 304?
3 or 4 loss team. Excuse me.
Oh, I was thinking win. So you think Notre Dame loses 3 or 4 games?
I think they lose 3. I
Okay.
guarantee lose 3.
Three's. I feel that's a little bit stretched to have them losing
That
to
could be
Ohio
my
State
floor
and Clemson and
and
USC.
USC.
Okay, if you have them reaching the floor, I can understand it. I kind of have them reaching, I guess, the ceiling 11-1. The ceiling is really 12-0, but I think that'd be stretching it out.
Yeah.
So I guess we can say I have them reaching the ceiling, you have them reaching the floor, and that's our difference.
Yeah.
But moving on to our number 4 teams, we both have a Texas team, and no, not the University of Texas, but I have Baylor making the college football playoff this year. I feel really strong about that. Either a Pac-12 or a Big 12 team is going to make it this year, and I really like Baylor as the candidate. I have them losing 1 regular season game to Oklahoma State. I feel like overall the Big 12 with Lincoln Riley leaving kind of takes Oklahoma out of this conversation for me, and
Yep.
they did lose Caleb Williams, the quarterback, as well. Although they do have Dylan Gabriel, I think is his name, who they added. But I think that Baylor is going to be right up here in this talk. I think that although they did lose a lot of the players, really, Tyquan Thornton to the draft, Charlie Brewer transferred, I think that Baylor is still going to be good. I think that ever since Matt Rule left, the coach that they have now has been fine since Matt Rule left. And I think that they do have an easy conference, like I said, is what really helps them, the case for me. Looking at the games, really, I haven't beat the good teams I've been beating is Iowa State, I guess Oklahoma, then Texas, the last game of the season, and then I have them losing to Oklahoma State the first time, beating them the second time. So I just really like the schedule for Baylor, and I think they're a good football team. So I got Baylor at number 4.
Yeah. I'll quickly touch on Baylor before we get into my number 4. I like Baylor as a team. They're a good team, but the problem is I don't see a way for my bracket at least that a 1-loss Pac-12 or 1-loss Big 12 team will make the college football playoff this year. I don't think the Big 12 and the Pac-12 have the recognition nor the talent to even take a loss this year and still make the college football playoff. If Baylor goes 12-0, beats Oklahoma State twice, which I also have Oklahoma State being really good this year and going to their Big 12 championship game. If they can beat them twice and go undefeated, I can see Baylor having a shot. I could also see Oklahoma State the same way. If they go undefeated and they beat Baylor twice, I could see it.
I'll add something too on Baylor. I'm completely tripping. I'm living in 2020. Charlie Brewer, the former Baylor quarterback, left to Utah last year, so he was on Utah last year. So that's my bad. Living in 2020.
I don't think he plays for Baylor.
Yeah, I said he transferred, but he transferred 2 years ago, not this past offseason. So that's my bad. He's now the Liberty starting quarterback. But anyway, you got A&M, so you can touch on them now.
So, yes, I'm going to have 3 SEC teams in the college football playoff. So, for A&M, they're having a little bit of a quarterback battle right now. They have the guy from last year, I forget his name, and they have the new transfer, Max Johnson, from LSU. Other than that, there is no other question marks on this team. This team is stacked. They have a great recruiting class for the future. They had the number one or two quarterback in the class from Bridgeland High School, right here in Texas, right in our area. I think Texas A&M has a bright future, and I think they're going to sneak in this year by going 11-1, or no, 10-1. Sorry, not 11-1. They're not making it to the conference.
I think 3 SEC teams is kind of bold, but
it is very
bold. You think that they're going to go 11-1, only losing to Bama, and just like be very good against everyone else? And I guess they have a shot. And Georgia going undefeated until the SEC title game, would really help them. So
I
help Georgia out.
I think what's going to happen is A&M is going to dominate opponents. I think we see A&M only lose one game to Alabama because Alabama is Alabama. Their game is playing at Tuscaloosa this year, which is already a big hindering L. And I think the fact that Alabama will beat Georgia in the SEC championship game will catapult A&M to put them into the college football playoff over a team like a Clemson or a Utah or a Baylor or even a Notre Dame.
Ready to talk about some honorable mentions now. Actually, I'll touch on A&M. Oh, there'll be my honorable mentions. So let's go over some honorable mentions. Let's just go conference to conference. So you pretty much covered all the SEC teams, but I'll cover the ones that I didn't have in there. Georgia, A&M, both obviously very close to the playoffs. I just think Georgia's going to lose a regular season game, then lose to Alabama in the SEC title game, which will give them 2 losses. I have Georgia losing to Oregon week 1, maybe a little bold. But then A&M, I think that they're going to drop 2 games. I actually have them losing to Alabama like you. But then I have them, I feel like this game, every year this game's a 50-50 game. The last game of the season, LSU A&M. I have LSU beating A&M. This game every year it's 50-50. It's like
It's
usually a
no
close
matter.
game. Can
Yeah,
go either way, no matter if LSU sucks, if LSU's in the championship contention. Well, actually, I think that year LSU blew out A&M,
actually,
but
yeah. The one year that there was a blowout was 2019, and Joe Burrow absolutely torched A&M.
but anyway, this game is usually always competitive, and for some reason, I feel like LSU is just going to get double hand.
Yep,
But
I can
the
see it.
quarterback Johnson is playing his old team, so he has
Revenge
that
game.
going for him. But I have A&M just out. Now let's cover another conference where we had got teams just missing. The Pac-12. I feel like we both have 2 teams in USC and Utah that are just right there on the edge. We just feel like, do they have a? I feel like I can see it's harder for me to see that one of those teams getting in than Baylor, Oklahoma State, who's another Big 12 team. But I feel like one of those teams is going to get in. Want to kind of talk about those, the Big 12 and not Big,
Pac-12.
Pac-12 and Big 12 combined.
Yeah,
So, who do you want to touch on first? USC, Oklahoma
I'm gonna
State, Baylor, or who's the other team?
I'm
USC.
gonna touch on USC because there is a lot of hype around USC with the addition of Caleb Williams, the hire Lincoln Riley. Yes, I think that this is going to be great for them. I don't think it's going to be playoff contending this year. Next year, when Caleb Williams is already 1 year settled in, and that's going to be his draft year. Lincoln Riley's already settled in into Southern California. I think that's where we're going to see the progression, and that's where we're going to see USC finally come back into the light and be title contenders. But this year, I don't think so.
I agree with you on USC. I feel like it's just going to be a tough transition, really.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to take it's going to take a year next year for them to be
Yep.
like really strong, maybe national championship contenders. I think this year it'd be pretty impressive if they could put it together and get into the 4th spot. I just kind of trust Baylor a little bit more right now than
Yep.
USC. But the other Pac-12 team, Utah, I think Utah actually has maybe a little slight better chance than USC at getting in. But I feel like they both have a solid chance. I like Utah a lot this year. They did lose Devin Lloyd to the draft, the star linebacker.
Yep.
But I feel like they play an easy Pac-12. I just have Utah losing to USC, who I also have losing a game this year to Notre Dame. So I feel like that one loss just kind of can't really put one of them in over Baylor because Utah doesn't win the championship. And I think Baylor kind of played a couple tougher opponents than USC. So may have just confused some people. But I have Baylor at 4 and USC just on the outside along with Utah. So do you want to say anything about Utah?
I have Utah at number 6. I like Utah. I like all the hype around them. They're good. They're really good. They got a good recruiting class. Like, things are going up for Utah. Just, I don't think this year is the right year due to the SEC being so stacked. I mean, LSU has regressed significantly, and I still think LSU would probably win the Pac-12 this year.
Oh, you're talking about the
Yes.
SEC stack.
So I still think the SEC is stacked. I think 3 SEC teams will make it in, no matter. I just don't. There's no
you
spot.
you had to find a way to say LSU would win something, didn't you? I don't think LSU would win the Pac-12. I don't think they'd be too far off, but I still think USC and Utah better football teams.
Yeah, I mean, it would be close, but I think I was just trying to prove a point how stacked the SEC is. I mean, there's Kentucky.
Kentucky would probably win the whatever.
Yeah,
Pac-12.
I think
they would have a good shot at it.
Yeah,
but let's
mention Tennessee.
Let's talk about Oklahoma State. I have Oklahoma State. This is weird. I have Oklahoma State going 12-0 in the regular season, but then I have them losing to Baylor in the second time around in the Big 12 title game.
So
puts them at one loss.
Yeah.
So listen, that puts them at one loss, which you could make a case then. If this team only lost one game and it was in the title game, then shouldn't they have a chance of being in over Notre Dame, who doesn't even play a title game? But the way I think about it is, they're coming off a more recent loss. Notre Dame, I have losing to my number 2 team, Ohio State, and that was all the way back week 1. So I feel like Notre Dame's momentum, big wins versus Clemson, USC, would kind of put them in over Oklahoma State, but it could go either way. But do you want to say anything about Oklahoma State?
I want to quickly ask a question to figure out your bracket a little bit better. So you have Baylor at 4 going 12-1 overall, including the championship game, losing to Oklahoma State. So you're saying
No, I have Baylor losing the first time like week 6 to Oklahoma State, then beating them in the championship
win the championship game. But you're saying the Big 12 championship game is the decider on who gets that 4 spot.
Well, if Oklahoma State wins the Big 12, I think they could get 3 because then they'd be undefeated. But I think
But you're saying that
decides who gets in, for my opinion.
Okay.
But do you want to say anything about Oklahoma State or no? Because I got a couple of teams to talk about.
You pretty much said a lot about.
What do you have Oklahoma State going? One loss team or so?
I have them as a 2-loss team. I think they'll lose to Oklahoma. I think they'll lose to Oklahoma this year, and I think they'll lose to Baylor.
So let's talk about a couple other teams. I have Georgia probably around the 6, 7, 8 range. I feel like just tough SEC, but again, I already covered them. I have them losing one game and losing to Bama.
What about Clemson?
Clemson was an interesting one. I have Clemson going 10-2, but I do have them winning the ACC. I'm gonna check who I have Clemson losing to real quick. But do you want to say anything about Clemson?
I like Clemson. I think their talent overall is really good. But there's one
quarterbacks can start.
DJ, will not say his last name. I can't say it right. He is the most inconsistent quarterback in college football, and it is so sad because Clemson's roster is really good. They have a lot of good young talent, a lot of good returning talent as well. They have a good mixture. They are a playoff team, except they have inconsistent quarterback play. I personally have Clemson being a 10-win team, 2-loss, and I do think they'll win the ACC though. I have them losing to NC State once again this year in another upset. And I also have them losing. Oh my gosh, who is the second loss? We just talked about it earlier, Nick.
Miami, Notre Dame.
Was it? I think I have them losing to Notre Dame. That's what I have on my list. But
I thought you had Notre Dame losing to Clemson.
That was a 50-50.
Okay,
that game's a flip coin.
Okay. But anyway, I have Clemson losing to Notre Dame and Miami. I like Miami a lot this year. I like the quarterback a lot, and I like the new coach. I like the new coach too. So I think Miami's kind of a turnaround deal. I don't think they're going to be quite this good. I think they'll be more of a 3-loss team who can be sneaky and maybe upset some teams. But I do have Clemson win the ACC. But we can talk about. I'll just name a couple more teams. Not going to really go in depth. Michigan. I'm just not really feeling them this year. I'm really all over Ohio State. I think losing Aiden Hutchinson and Dax Hill to that defense can hurt their defense.
That was a crush.
But I feel like the team just kind of all put it together last year and wasn't really expected to be that good. And I think they kind of overperformed. I don't think that's going to be like a new standard there. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe Michigan could set a new winning standard and be a perennial playoff or be a playoff team year to year. But I'm feeling Ohio State this year. And then another team I mentioned, Kentucky. I feel like they're going to lose one game, and that's to Georgia in the SEC. But they're not going to get in the SEC championship because it will probably be Georgia versus Alabama. So that'll hurt their chances. But I do like Kentucky as a sneaky team. If they could upset Georgia, they have a strong shot. But I feel like that's maybe a bit of a stretch. And I mentioned Miami. I like them a little bit, but they're not near really playoff for me. More of a 3, maybe. The ceiling is 2-loss team, but I don't see them in this conversation. So that's my teams. Anything you want to add to anything I said or any teams you want to add?
Nah, I'm ready to move on.
Okay. So we can move on to our next thing we're talking about, which is basically similar to this. We're just talking about who we have winning it all. We kind of cover these teams. I have Alabama, as you see on the left. Graham has Georgia. So looking at it, I think it's going to be Alabama, Ohio State in the title game. I'm sure you probably think it's Alabama, Georgia because you have Ohio State as your 2. So I think Alabama this year, it's just hard to see them not winning one with Bryce Young. I think he's going to be very good this year once again. And I really like the defense with Will Anderson. And I think the receivers are going to be fine. They got some new guys, but they seem to develop them fine. I just really like Alabama, led by Nick Saban, getting back to national championship status this year. You have Georgia, so explain why you have Georgia.
So even though earlier in the pod I did say Georgia doesn't necessarily have the title contending or title championship winning talent, that doesn't mean I don't think they'll win it. You don't necessarily need the best talent to be a champion. We kind of saw it last
I
year.
feel like college football, you need the best talent. Football, I feel like you need the best talent.
I don't
Maybe there can be
necessarily agree.
fluky. NFL can be a little bit more fluky than college football, but I
Yeah,
feel like college football, 2019 LSU, by far the best team. 2020 Alabama, by far the most
that's
talented. Last year, Georgia, by far the most talented, in my
I
opinion.
don't agree with that. I think
Maybe at
Alabama's team
quarterback,
was
they
more
weren't the most
talented.
talented, but Stetson Bennett did enough to get it done, and that defense was just like crazy good.
That defense last year was really good, and I will give it that. But I think Georgia's defense is going to come back. Not like it'll be close to as strong as it was last year. I don't think it will be better, but it'll be close. And I think Stetson Bennett will actually take a step up because he wants to prove himself as an actual starter quarterback after JT Daniels
I
left.
think Georgia has a very good tight end too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes.
He has
They
named
do.
out.
Oh
I
my
think
gosh,
that
because
the
he balled out
offense.
last
I
year.
think that Georgia's offense has a chance to be maybe better than they were last year, but I just think the
Yes.
defense is going to be big time
Because
regress.
they don't have Davis.
It's still going to be good, but last year was historically good, so I don't think it's going to live up to that.
I still think they'll be really, really good. And that's why I think I have them going there. Plus, I like Kirby Smart. I like how he plays up against Alabama a lot because just about every time Georgia plays Alabama, it's usually close. And I think Kirby Smart has figured out a little trick against Alabama. I don't know what it is. I don't personally watch college football enough to know what it is. But Kirby Smart has something up his sleeve against Nick Saban now. Don't know what it is, but he's got it. And I think actually this graphic that we have right now would be that would be the national championship game for me, and I think Georgia would win.
I like Ohio State over Georgia, but I think Alabama's going to win it all. But we can move
Yeah.
on to our last part of this short podcast today. Probably have a lot to say about this though. Heisman winners. You can see on the graphic on the left, I have CJ Stroud winning. Graham has on the right Bryce Young winning. So we can talk about these two guys. I think the top two quarterback draft prospects going into this year. There's obviously the Kentucky guy, the Miami quarterback. So there's some guys who could potentially challenge him, but I think right now these are the consensus top two.
Yep.
CJ Stroud, I just feel like his connection with Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be very good. Ryan Day, very good offensive coach. So I think that this connection is just going to be there for CJ Stroud. And I think it's hard to see Bryce Young winning two in a row, but although it wouldn't be super surprising, it's just really hard to see that happening. But Bryce Young, he did lose his top targets. I think they'll be fine with the ones they brought in, but maybe chemistry could maybe not be there quite early in the season, which could make his full season not look as good as CJ Stroud's. But I just think Stroud is going to slightly duel Bryce Young for quarterback one this year in college football.
I could see it. I think Bryce Young though this year he's going to go back to back, and it's going to be the first player in a long time to go back to back.
Who was the last one to go back to back? Did Tebow go back to back?
No. This guy won back to back like in the 60s. It was a long time ago.
Oh, Tebow won 2 national championships, but he won 1.
Yeah, he won 2 national championships. He didn't win 2 Heismans. I think Bryce Young has the best chance since Johnny Manziel to go back to back. Because if you remember, like the year after Johnny Manziel won, remember everyone was like, "Oh, he might do it again," and he was close, but he just wasn't like there. I think Bryce Young is going to be there because I think Alabama historically is going to have an amazing regular season, and then of course, the Heisman always comes right before the championship game. And I think Bryce Young will be already checked out and ready to go to the NFL. I think that's another reason why Georgia will lose. But anyways, I think Bryce Young's regular season is going to be historic. It's going to be crazy. If you look at some of these stats from last year, he had 4,800 yards, nearly 4,900 yards, 47 touchdowns to a 7 interception ratio with a 87.6 QBR rating. That is really good stats. Really good stats.
It's time to pull up the PFF grades.
Oh God, not the PFF grades. But anyways, after I was so rudely interrupted, I'm just kidding. Bryce Young already had a really good season. I think he's going to build on that, and he's going to have a historic season.
I'm trying to find out who the last back-to-back Heisman winner was. Can't find it, but has it ever happened back-to-back?
Yes.
When did someone win back-to-back? Because I'm like looking
It
all
was a
over and I can't
long
find
time
it.
ago.
Like I'm all the way to the 40s and I don't see a back-to-back. I don't see any back-to-backs ever, but maybe I missed something. But I don't think someone's ever won back-to-back Heismans. You're just like pausing. But anyway, we can talk about it next, guys. Graham, you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm trying to read. Archie
Okay.
Griffin. That's who it was.
Who's Archie Griffin and when did
Ohio's
he win
only
Heisman?
one player, Ohio State's Archie Griffin, has won the award twice.
When did he win the? Oh, probably wasn't back-to-back, but
Yeah, I don't think it was back to back, but he did win it twice. So I was not too terribly off.
But anyway, I'm gonna pull up something real quick. I'm trying to find.
Do you want me to go ahead and start talking about my number 2?
Actually, I guess I'll talk about Smith, and Jigba.
Okay.
But okay, so my number 2 Heisman candidate, I have Jackson Smith and Jigba. I kind of touched on this a little earlier. I think him and Stroud are going to have a really good connection. I think that Smith and Jigba showed really what he could do throughout last season. I think he outreceived Chris Olave, and I think just whenever I was watching Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave pre-draft, I feel like Smith and Jigba was a better player than Chris Olave. So I really do like. Oh, John's got us for the stat. John, the NFLTalkZone.
Yeah, 70s, 73, 74.
NFLTalkZone college football history. Guy. Anyway,
74, 75. Sorry.
So he did win back.
Yes.
Okay, but let's talk about back to Smith and Jigba. I think he's going to be very good, and I think that connection with CJ Stroud is just going to show from the start of the season and really make him push 1,800, maybe 2,000 yards, which would be historically good, and maybe even put him over Stroud. But I just really like Stroud this year.
Yep.
But Smith and Jigba had that historic game versus Utah in the Rose Bowl last year, so I just really like Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I got him at 2. So you got a non-quarterback at 2 as well. You got Will Anderson Jr., the defensive player out of currently at Alabama. What do you have to say about Will Anderson?
Will Anderson Jr. is just the best player in college football. I don't think he'll win it this year because he is not a quarterback. But anyways, I'm also going to read off some stats from last year. 57 solo tackles. Many of those were tackled for losses. He's just really good at run stopping, and that's something that not a lot of people talk about. He is an edge rusher that is really good at stopping the run. Not to mention he also had 17 and a half sacks last year. I mean, that's just really good. That just proves that he's just really good at football. He was averaging more than 1 sack a game last year. He would be averaging 1.2 something a game. That's insane. So from that, I think he's going to build on that and also have a really historic season. And I think he will have maybe one of the best defensive seasons in college football history. The reason why I don't have him winning the Heisman is because I think Bryce Young is just going to have maybe the third best college football quarterback season of all time behind Joe Burrow and
wow.
Yeah.
Behind Joe Burrow and who?
Oh my God. Who was the one a couple years ago?
Cam Newton?
No, it was a while ago. It may have been Cam Newton.
Cam Newton was the one who had a really good historic season.
So I
Vince Young too. Vince Young had a good season.
Yeah. It'll be behind Joe Burrow and Cam Newton, and I think Bryce Young will be that third slot.
So I'm just going to go back to the PFF grades real quick. The top 3 PFF graded college quarterbacks last year, I found this interesting. So CJ Stroud, Kenny Pickett, and Bryce Young all had a 92.2 grade, which was the highest in college football. So that's weird that they were all tied. But that's just kind of showing you how good Bryce Young was and CJ Stroud, how good Bryce Young and CJ Stroud were as the first year starting. And I also found this interesting. Caleb Williams had a 91.3 grade, which ranked 8th, and he was a freshman.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as big of a sample size as some other quarterbacks, but that's still impressive.
Yeah.
So that just shows you maybe Caleb Williams is a guy that could be in this conversation now at USC at the end of the year. But anyway, we can get to our number 3. We kind of already touched on these guys. I just have Bryce Young, who you have winning. Then you have CJ Stroud at 3, who I have winning Heisman. So any closing things on to say on Bryce Young and CJ Stroud?
I think CJ Stroud is going to have a really good season. I just think the two guys above him are just going to have historic seasons. I think exactly as you said about CJ Stroud and Jackson Smith. I'm not even going to say his name. I'm not good with names. I think they're going to have a great connection, like you said. I just don't think they're going to have the historic seasons that they would need to put themselves over the Bryce Young and the Will Anderson Juniors. But fun fact, I've just noticed this. We both have only Ohio State and Alabama people here.
I noticed that when I was making the graphic. We only have Ohio State and Alabama. But what I just noticed for you, you said Bryce Young was going to have a top 3 historic quarterback season. You said Will Anderson is the best player in the country. That's offense and defense. They have Nick Saban, and you still don't have him win the Natty. That just is shocking to me.
It is shocking, and I think it's slowly shocking myself. I just think
you're talking yourself out of your pick, or it's just shocking you that.
Like, I think I'm almost talking myself out of the pick, but I don't want to be. I'm just too stubborn to change it.
Okay, so to recap, college football playoff teams. We both have Alabama, Ohio State 1 and 2. I have Notre Dame, Baylor 3 and 4, and Graham has. Did you have 3?
I have Georgia at 3.
Georgia 3 and A&M 4. Texas A&M 4. And then I have Alabama winning the championship. Graham has Georgia. Then you see the Heisman on the screen. I have CJ Stroud. Graham has Bryce Young. I have Jackson Smith and Jigba 2 and 2. Graham has Will Anderson 2. I have Bryce Young 3. Graham has CJ Stroud 3. So that's going to wrap up our college football preview for the upcoming college football season. Anything else to add, Graham?
We know nothing about college football. No, but this is actually a lot of fun doing a little bit more down and like research with college football. I just gotta know names more. I am not a names person.
Yeah, it was fun. Definitely talking a little college football. During the season, maybe we could try to implement a little bit of college football talk within our pods. Just we're gonna have so much NFL to cover with recaps, predictions, all that good stuff. But top 10 teams you're gonna have weekly. So, but anyway, that's our college football recap. So next week's podcast, Graham, you're fine with doing you're just showing off your dog. But you're fine with doing the award predictions for the NFL.
Oh yeah, next week. I think that's what we're doing.
We've talked a lot of NFL players ever since this podcast debuted, like 4 weeks back. But we're gonna talk players again next week. This is a final award predictions, unless someone like randomly gets hurt. But
MVP is going to be the FBI security guards who arrest Dan Snyder and make him force a way to sell the Washington Commanders.
We don't have to talk Dan Snyder every podcast. Or you talk Dan Snyder every podcast. But anyway, awards will be next week. Week after that, going to be our final record predictions. So any final thoughts? Oh, wait, I'll also add videos. Defense rankings are coming out. Offense rankings came out last weekend. Defense rankings are probably coming out this weekend or sometime within the next week or so. So I'm excited to get those out. And anything to add before we close the pod out, Graham?
Nah, fun pod though. It was really fun. And Benson says hello.
Yeah, it was fun talking college football. Okay, so that'll do it for the pod. Thank you guys for tuning in and have a